The echo of a past life, the desert wind, a relentless whisper, scrapes against the single pane of glass, a constant reminder of the world you've walled yourself off from. Dust motes dance in the thin shafts of morning light that pierce the drawn blinds, illuminating the settled neglect of your small, remote dwelling. Each breath you take is thick with the scent of old paper, stale coffee, and the phantom perfume of a life you once knew. Your fingers, calloused now from disuse, trace the cold rim of a ceramic mug, its surface chipped, much like the edges of your own existence. You are Dean, or at least, you once were. The quiet hum of the ancient refrigerator is your only companion, a steady pulse in the vast, empty expanse of your self-imposed exile. Years have carved lines into your face, etched there by regret and the weight of a disgraced badge. The ghost of a smile, belonging to your daughter, Clara, sometimes flickers at the periphery of your vision, a cruel taunt from a memory too precious to hold, too painful to release. You swore to yourself you'd never go back, never again touch the grime of the underworld that devoured your career, fractured your family. The oath was a shield, a flimsy barrier against the gnawing emptiness. Then, the phone rings. It's an old flip phone, one you keep for emergencies, one that rarely stirs. Your hand hovers, hesitates, a primal fear tightening your gut. You pick it up. The voice on the other end is gruff, familiar, yet distant. It belongs to a former colleague, now merely the detective, his tone clipped, professional, yet underlaid with a tremor you recognize as genuine concern. "Dean," he says, no preamble, no pleasantries. "It's Clara." The name is a hammer blow, shattering the fragile peace you've cultivated. Your knuckles whiten around the phone. "What about her?" Your voice is a rasp, and used to urgency. "She's gone. Disappeared. No trace. Her apartment was clean. Too clean. Like he was never there." The world tilts. The dust motes blur. "Clara. Gone." The words echo in the barren chambers of your mind, each syllable a spike of ice. You demand details, your detective's mind, long dormant, sparking to life with a terrifying clarity. The detective explains, his words a torrent of official jargon that does little to soothe the rising panic. No forced entry, no struggle, just an absence. He mentions a last known sighting, vague and unconfirmed, near the border. You remember the syndicate, the one you almost brought down, the one that broke you instead. Had they finally come for you, through her? A text message arrives then, on the same burner phone, a series of anonymous numbers. It's not from the detective. Midnight. Alone. Don't disappoint us. The message isn't signed, but the implication is clear. They know you. They know your weakness. They have Clara. The reclusive life, the shield of solitude, it all crumbles. You feel the old hunger stir within you, the sharp edge of the predator you once were, dulled but not broken. The syndicate, with its faceless operatives and sprawling network, had cost you everything once. Now, they were trying to take the last piece of your shattered world. You hang up on the detective, his urgent questions fading into the background. There's no time for official channels, for rules, for the slow grind of justice that failed you before. This is different. This is personal. You move through your small house with a renewed purpose, a ghost shedding its shroud. Your old gear, stored in a dusty trunk, calls to you. The worn leather of your old holster, the weight of the sidearm that once felt like an extension of your arm, the familiar scent of gun oil and stale sweat. You pack a sparse bag, your mind already racing, calculating, remembering. The drive is a blur of red rock and endless sky. The sun, a brutal orb, dips below the horizon, painting the desert in hues of orange and purple. You push the battered pickup truck past its limits, the engine groaning in protest. You are driving towards a ghost, towards a Confrontation with the very specters that haunt your waking hours. You reach the designated coordinates just as the last sliver of twilight vanishes. The border patrol station in the desert stands stark against the moonless sky, a cluster of prefabricated buildings and a single, flickering fluorescent light over an empty checkpoint. The gravel crunch under your tires is deafening in the profound quiet. No other vehicles. No activity. You scan the desolate landscape, your eyes, once so adept at finding anomalies, searching for any sign, any movement. There's nothing. Just the vast, indifferent desert and the looming presence of the station. Then, you see it. A single, small package, nestled on the dusty ground directly beneath the flickering light, almost invisible against the muted tones of the desert floor. It's wrapped in plain brown paper, tied with twine. A shiver, not of fear but of grim recognition, snakes down your spine. They are here, or they were. And they are playing their game. Each step is deliberate, cautious. You approach the package, your senses heightened, every nerve ending screaming. This is the first move, the opening gambit in a game you never wanted to play again. You kneel, your gaze sweeping the perimeter one last time before your fingers close around the package. It feels light, almost insubstantial. You untie the twine, your movements slow, precise. Inside, nestled on a bed of shredded paper, is a single, child's wooden doll. Its eyes are painted shut, a crude, unsettling smile on its tiny face. Around its neck, a small, handwritten note is tied with a strand of Clara's own red hair. The note simply reads, "A life for a life, Dean. Find the ledger." The air leaves your lungs in a ragged gasp. The ledger. The very evidence that had eluded you all those years ago, the one piece that would have brought the syndicate crashing down. They want you to finish what you started, to retrieve the very thing that cost you everything. And they have Clara. Your daughter. The silence that follows the click of the line is a physical weight, pressing against your chest, stealing the very air from your lungs. Clara. Her name is a whisper of ash on your tongue, a raw, aching wound. The ledger. The ghost of a past you meticulously buried, now unearthed with a brutal, sickening precision. And they have Clara. Your hand trembles, but not with fear. The world shrinks to this singular, terrifying purpose. No phone calls to the authorities, you know too well how that dance plays out. They wouldn't understand, or worse, they'd become another obstacle. This is yours. This burden, this fight, belongs to you alone. You move with a quiet urgency, the creak of your floorboards the only witness to your transformation. The worn leather jacket, a second skin, is pulled from the back of the closet. The familiar weight of the old service pistol, long cleaned but never fired, feels strangely right in your palm as you check the magazine. Old habits, like ghosts, begin to stir. Your first call is to a number etched into memory, not a contact saved in any device. It rings twice, a grating buzz, before a raspy voice answers. You're a dead man calling, Dean. Not yet, Marcus, you reply, your voice a low growl. I need something. Anything. A woman. Taken and the ledger. They want the ledger. A beat of static. Marcus, your old informant, a man who swam in the murkiest currents of the city's underbelly, was rarely surprised. But this, you hear it in his sharp intake of breath, hits him. The serpent's coil, he states, not a question. They've been quiet. Too quiet. But the ledger. That's ancient history. What did you do, Dean? I lived, you snap, impatience a venomous sting. What do you have? A vehicle, Marcus finally offers, his voice losing its initial shock, settling into its usual gravelly cadence. Black utility van. Modified. He was seen leaving the perimeter of your old district, heading south, fast.
Not a local plate and a name. A new enforcer for the Serpent's Coil. Goes by the Watcher. Known for ghosting across borders. He was spotted at a low-rent motel on the outskirts, just hours before your call. The pieces begin to snap into place, each one a shard of ice in your gut. The Serpent's Coil. Of course. And Clara, a pawn in their cruel game. It wasn't random. It was a calculated strike, a declaration. Border, you mutter, the word tasting like dust. Where exactly? Could be anywhere, Dean. But the Watcher, he has a preferred route. Back roads, old smuggling trails, cuts through the desert. Ends up near. Well, you know the spot. You know the spot. A surge of bitter recognition floods you. The very edge of civilization, where the land bleeds into another country. Without another word, you disconnect. Your old, beat-up pickup truck rumbles to life, protesting the sudden demand for speed. The city lights shrink in your rearview mirror, replaced by the vast, indifferent expanse of the desert. The air grows thin, dry, carrying the scent of sagebrush and distant dust. A handful of vehicles, mostly heavy-duty trucks and SUVs, sit idle. The wind whips grit against the windshield as you pull into a visitor's spot, the engine ticking as it cools. You enter the main building, the automatic doors hissing open to reveal a brightly lit, sterile interior. A uniformed officer, younger than you remember any of them being, sits behind a thick pane of glass, eyes scanning a monitor. Another, older, with a weary face and a neatly trimmed mustache, leans against a filing cabinet, sipping coffee. He looks up as you enter, his gaze lingering, a flicker of recognition in his tired eyes. "Can I help you?" the younger officer asks, his voice flat. You approach the window, your face carefully neutral. "I'm looking for a friend. Haven't heard from her in a while. Heard she might have been traveling south, possibly through here." You offer a vague description of Clara, omitting any details that might raise red flags. The young officer taps at his keyboard. "We log everyone who crosses legally, sir." "Name?" "Clara," you supply, your voice tight. "Clara Miller." He types, his fingers flying across the keys. The older officer, meanwhile, has straightened up, his coffee cup now held loosely in his hand. His eyes meet yours, a silent question passing between you. He knows you, Dean. He remembers. He was a rookie when you were still a detective, chasing ghosts through these very badlands. The younger officer shakes his head. "No record of a Clara Miller crossing in the last 48 hours, sir." "Unusual activity then," you press, leaning closer, lowering your voice slightly. "Any reports of a black utility van, maybe modified? Heading off the beaten path?" The younger officer frowns, clearly annoyed by your persistence. "Sir, we deal with hundreds of vehicles a day. If you have a missing person report, you should file it with local law enforcement." "I understand," you say, your eyes still locked with the older officer. He gives a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of his head, then glances towards a wall-mounted bulletin board. On it, among various notices and wanted posters, is a small, hastily printed flyer. It's a bolo, be on the lookout. Your gaze snags on the image, a crude sketch of a man with angular features and a distinctive scar above his left eye. Below it, the name, The Watcher. Your breath hitches. This isn't just a random abduction. It's a precise operation, orchestrated by the new blood in the Serpent's Coil. And the flyer isn't just a coincidence, it's a sign that they're already on the radar, albeit for something else. The Watcher, Marcus said. The Enforcer. He's here, or he was. You turn back to the younger officer, a forced smile on your face. Thank you for your time. As you turn to leave, the older officer catches your eye again. This time, he doesn't shake his head. He subtly tilts it, just barely, towards a stack of printed forms on a nearby counter. They are vehicle inspection reports. Your eyes scan the top sheet. The date? Just hours ago. The syndicate isn't just trying to get across the border, they're moving something, or someone, through a clandestine route that avoids official checkpoints entirely. Clara is out there, in that vast, unforgiving landscape. The path ahead is clearer now, but the wind howling outside the station sounds like a mournful warning. You are back in the game, Dean, whether you wanted to be or not. And the serpent's coil is waiting. Your gaze locks onto the vehicle inspection report, the printed words sharp against the paper's pale surface. A black utility van. The make, the model, the license plate, a phantom echo of Marcus's frantic, broken description. The older officer, his face a landscape of weary lines, watches you, his silent tilt of the head now a stark confirmation. The world outside the station's sterile walls suddenly narrows, the desert's endless expanse replaced by a suffocating tunnel vision. The report details a stop roughly 2 hours prior, miles east of your current position. A routine check. The driver, a nondescript figure, cleared without incident. But the van matches. A cold certainty settles in your gut, a familiar, bitter taste. They pass through. They are deeper now, further into the network's shadowed embrace. You tear your eyes from the report, the paper a flimsy barrier against the truth, and not a curt acknowledgement to the officer. He offers nothing more, his eyes a testament to the unspoken rules of this desolate place. Some lines are not crossed, even for a ghost like you. The engine of your tired sedan grumbles to life, a low complaint against the heat. You drive, the landscape a blur of sun-baked rock and skeletal brush. Your mind races, connecting the fragmented pieces. The serpent's coil. Hours later, the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in violent hues of orange and purple. You leave the main roads, turning onto a crumbling asphalt path swallowed by overgrown weeds. The air grows heavy with the metallic tang of decay and disuse. Before you, a skeletal silhouette rises against the bruised sky, an abandoned factory, its windows gaping like sightless eyes, its brickwork crumbling like ancient bone. This is where the old world bleeds into the new, where secrets are traded for coin and loyalty is a fragile currency. The only sound is the rustle of dry leaves caught in a phantom breeze and the distant, mournful cry of some nocturnal creature. You move through the deepening twilight, your boots crunching on gravel and broken glass. The factory's main entrance, a cavernous maw, yawns open. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the ghosts of industry. The faint scent of stale cigarette smoke and something acrid, metallic, clings to the air. A dim, flickering light emanates from deeper within the structure, a beacon in the gloom. You follow it, your steps measured, your senses heightened. The light leads you to a makeshift office, carved out of a former foreman's station. Seated at a salvaged metal desk, hunched over a flickering screen, is the fence. His face, a roadmap of past transgressions and sleepless nights, is illuminated in the harsh glare. He's older, his hair thinner, but the same avarice glints in his rheumy eyes. Dean, the fence says, his voice a gravelly rasp, without looking up from his screen. And neither are you, it seems. He finally lifts his gaze, his eyes narrowing. What brings the ghost of the law back to the land of the living? Slumming it, are we? A sneer plays on his lips, a familiar taunt. My daughter, you state, your voice devoid of emotion, a deliberate mask. They took her. The serpent's coil. The fence flinches, a subtle twitch of his jaw. The name carries weight, even here. That's a deep hole you're digging, Dean. deeper than your old badge could ever reach.
He leans back, his chair groaning under his weight.
Times have changed. The coil. It's different now. Sharper teeth.
Tell me, you command, your hand resting lightly on the butt of your pistol.
He's known you too long.
He eyes your hand, then your face.
The new head.
Rose from the ashes of the old guard.
More ruthless. Less visible. He doesn't leave. Loose ends. Where do they move their cargo now? What's the new route? Where would they take a girl? Your questions are clipped, urgent.
The fence sighs, a sound like sandpaper on wood.
The old docks, mostly. But for sensitive packages, they use the tunnels. Beneath the city's underbelly. Old forgotten service tunnels. Leads to a network of abandoned warehouses on the industrial fringe. Always the fringe. He pauses, rubbing a hand over his chin. And the viper. He's obsessed with the desert. Uses it like a shield. Has a place out there, they say. An underground bunker, deep in the Badlands. The desert. The patrol station. The van. It all connects. Who is the viper? A name. A face. No one knows his true face, Dean. That's his power.
But he has a lieutenant.
A brute. Goes by the butcher.
He's the muscle, the one who gets his hands dirty.
The fence shivers, despite the heat. He was with the old coil, always a step behind the original leader. Now, he's the viper's right hand. Loyal to the bone.
The butcher, you repeat, the name tasting like ash.
You remember him.
A ghost from your past, a loose end you never quite tied.
The connection solidifies, pulling you deeper into the mire you swore to escape. Your past isn't just haunting you, it's actively trying to consume you.
They're moving something big tonight, the fence continues, his voice barely audible, a desperate attempt to buy his safety.
A shipment. Coming through the tunnels. The butcher will be there.
He always oversees the big ones. You absorb the information, each word a stone weighing you down, yet also a step forward.
The tunnels. The butcher. An underground bunker in the Badlands. The viper. Your daughter.
The pieces of this twisted puzzle are beginning to fall into place, revealing a monstrous picture.
Thank you, you say, the words tasting like ash. You pause, but do not turn. This ain't just about your daughter, is it? This is about the coil. About the one that got away. You're going to burn this whole world down, aren't you? You don't answer.
The world you left behind has dragged you back, and now, you are ready to dismantle it, brick by bloody brick. The viper and the butcher await, and you, Dean, are coming. The factory's stench of stale oil and rusted metal still clung to your clothes, a phantom weight as you pushed deeper into the night. The fence's flickering light had long vanished behind you, swallowed by the vast indifference of the landscape. Your hands, still raw from the climb, gripped the steering wheel of the stolen sedan. The world had indeed dragged you back, not with a gentle tug, but a violent yank, and now, the only path forward was through the serpent's coils.
Midnight.
No sender, no other context. Just a whisper of a promise in a desolate place.
It was a lure, you knew, a hook in the dark, but the memory of your daughter's face, etched in the shadows behind your eyes, made you bite. Hours bled into a monochrome blur of highway and starlight.
The air thinned, growing sharp with the scent of sagebrush and dust. You felt the subtle shift in the vehicle's hum as it climbed, leaving behind the last vestiges of civilization. The desert, an unforgiving canvas, stretched out on all sides, a fitting stage for the grim play unfolding. Floodlights bathed the perimeter in a harsh, artificial glare, revealing sand-colored buildings, a tall radio mast, and a fleet of parked vehicles. It was a fortress of bureaucracy and vigilance, an unlikely rendezvous for the clandestine. You cut the engine a mile out, letting the sedan coast into a deep arroyo, its engine ticking softly as it cooled. From your vantage point, you observed a patrol vehicle, its lights off, eased out from behind a storage shed, driving a slow, deliberate circuit around the station's outer fence line before returning. Too precise. Too rehearsed. Your gut tightened. This wasn't a simple dead drop. This was a stage, and you, Dean, were the unsuspecting actor about to walk into the spotlight. The text had been a deliberate misdirection, luring you to a place of authority, a place where you, a disgraced former detective, would be instantly vulnerable. Hydra wasn't just waiting, they were orchestrating. A faint glint caught your eye near a remote section of the fence, far from the main gate. A sniper scope? Or just the reflection of the moon on a discarded can? You decided not to gamble. The dry goods were a lie, the trap was the truth. You moved like a wraith, leaving the sedan behind, navigating the treacherous terrain of loose rock and thorny bushes. Your senses, dulled by years of quiet solitude, sharpened with a terrifying clarity. Every rustle of dry leaves, every distant howl of a coyote, became a potential threat. No lights, no movement, yet a faint, rhythmic hum emanated from its interior. A surveillance van, or worse. You peered around the corner of a dilapidated storage shed, your breath held tight in your chest. One was fiddling with a complex array of electronic equipment in the back of the van, a headset pressed to his ear. Another stood guard, a short-barreled rifle held loosely at his side. The third, a woman whose movements were sharp and economical, was meticulously wiping down a small, black object with a cloth. They weren't waiting for you, they were preparing for someone else. The trap wasn't for you directly, not yet. It was a wider net, and you had stumbled into its periphery. The dry goods message was a lure, but perhaps it wasn't for Dean, the detective. Perhaps it was for a rival, or a courier. A sudden, sharp crack echoed from the direction of the main station entrance, the unmistakable sound of a high-velocity impact. Not a gunshot, but something heavy, hitting metal. Then, an alarm, a piercing electronic shriek that tore through the night. The figures by the panel truck reacted instantly. The rifleman snapped to attention, scanning the perimeter. The woman holstered her pistol, her eyes narrowed, already moving. The technician ripped off his headset, shouting into a comms unit. "We've got a breach. Not our target. Repeat, not our target. This was your window. This was the event." You didn't hesitate. As the two armed figures sprinted towards the commotion at the main gate, you launched yourself from cover, a silent blur in the chaos. The technician, still fumbling with his equipment, looked up, eyes wide with surprise as you crashed into him. He was a soft target, more brains than brawn. Your fist connected with his jaw, a clean, brutal strike that sent him sprawling against the console, wires sparking. He crumpled, unconscious. Your eyes darted across the glowing screens, the blinking lights. Too complex, too much information. But then you saw it, a small, encrypted data chip, half inserted into a port, its indicator light pulsing green. This was the reveal. This was the intelligence. You yanked it free, the plastic warm in your fingers, just as the rifleman, alerted by the technician's fall, skidded to a halt at the corner of the shed, his rifle rising. "Freeze," he bellowed, but you were already moving. A quick kick to the technician's fallen body sent him skidding into the rifleman's legs, a clumsy but effective distraction. The rifleman stumbled, cursing, his shot going wide, kicking up dust where you had been a heartbeat before. You ran, the desert floor uneven beneath your worn boots, the data chip clutched tight. Your lungs burned, your muscles screamed, but you pushed through the pain. You were out, for now. The chip was small, insignificant, yet it held a weight that pressed down on you. What secrets did it contain? Your daughter's fate? Hydra's next move? You didn't know, but you had a piece of the serpent now. And you, Dean, were determined to unravel its every scale. The desert stretched before you, vast and unforgiving, but now, it also held the promise of answers. You crashed into him, a sudden, brutal impact that sent a jolt up your arm. Air rushed from his lungs in a choked gasp as your elbow found his throat, then twisted, slamming his head against the cold metal console. The screen flickered, displaying a static map of the borderlands, then went dark, taking with it the last vestiges of his awareness. His body went limp, a dead weight slumping against the humming machinery, a puppet with severed strings. No time. The chaos outside, a symphony of distant shouts and flashing lights, was a clock ticking down your precious seconds. Your fingers, calloused and quick, worked with practiced speed, prying the comms unit from the technician's belt. Beneath it, taped with surgical precision, was a small data stick, barely the size of your thumbnail, a sliver of compressed secrets. A surge of grim satisfaction cut through the adrenaline. This was it. This was the window. You slipped into a maintenance crawl space beneath the main floor, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of ozone. The data stick felt cold against your palm, a promise of answers. Pulling a small, encrypted tablet from your tactical vest, a device you'd kept hidden since your forced retirement, you inserted the stick. The screen glowed, a stream of encrypted files cascading down in silent testament to Hydra's digital footprint. A name caught your eye, a project code name, Cerberus Protocol. And then, a list of coordinates, a series of drop zones, and a name. It wasn't a Hydra alias. Standing silhouetted against the faint, pulsing light from the main room was a figure. A ghost from your past, materialized in the heart of this desert night. The former colleague. The one who had vanished after your last big case, the one everyone thought had simply retired to a quiet life. He stepped closer, the light catching the insignia on his collar, a stylized serpent, Hydra's undeniable mark. The same thing you are, old friend. Protecting assets. Though our definitions of assets seem to differ. He gestured vaguely at the tablet in your hand, a slow, deliberate movement. That data? It points to our new distribution network. A shame you found it. You're with them, you stated, the words tasting like ash, each syllable a bitter pill. All this time. You were the leak. A wry smile touched his lips, a grimace more than a genuine expression. Leak? No, Dean. I was the architect. Hydra offered more than a pension and a pat on the back. They offered a future. A secure future, unlike the one your ethics promised. The betrayal hit you like a physical blow, a sudden, sharp pain beneath your ribs. A worldview splintered. Where's my daughter, you demanded, the tablet forgotten, your focus narrowing to a single, burning point. He chuckled, a dry, humorless sound that scraped against your nerves. That's above my pay grade, Dean. But I can tell you, she's safe for now. So long as you don't disrupt the flow. Before you could respond, a sudden, violent commotion erupted from the main room. Gunfire, closer this time, a staccato rhythm, followed by the distinct, shattering sound of breaking glass. It wasn't one of Hydra's men. He aimed not at you, but at your former colleague. Hydra always cleans up its loose ends, the stranger said, his voice a low rumble, devoid of emotion, like stones grinding together. And you, old dog, are about to be neutered. Your former colleague reacted instantly, diving for cover. A shot rang out, impacting the wall beside him with a dull thud, showering sparks. He scrambled to his feet, pulling his own weapon, his face a mask of sudden fear. You were caught in the middle, two enemies, one a former friend, now facing off in the claustrophobic confines of your hiding place. Wait, you barked, stepping between them, your own weapon leveled, though you weren't sure who your target was. What's your game? You asked the stranger, your eyes narrowed, searching for an angle. The stranger ignored you, his gaze fixed on your former colleague. He's part of the Cerberus protocol. He's been moving their assets across the border for months. My family lost everything because of their flow. A flicker of understanding. Not a random rival. Someone with a personal vendetta, just like you, driven by a similar, searing grief. Your former colleague, seeing the stranger's unwavering focus, saw an opening. He fired, not at the stranger, but at a cluster of exposed wires above the crawl space entrance. He's gone, the stranger growled, his voice tight with frustration. You heard the sounds of a struggle outside, then the distinct roar of an engine fading into the vast desert night. The former colleague had slipped away, a phantom in the chaos he'd helped orchestrate. The stranger turned to you, his eyes glinting in the dim, emergency light filtering through the vents. You want to find your daughter, Dean? You need to stop Hydra's Cerberus protocol. And for that, you need me. I know their routes. I know their safe houses. The offer hung in the air, thick with the scent of dust and cordite, a bitter pill cloaked in necessity. An alliance with a ghost, a known operative of unknown allegiance, against a ghost from your own past. It was a poison pill, but the only one on the table. Your daughter. The word echoed in the desolate chambers of your mind, overriding all caution, all instinct to work alone, a beacon in the storm of your desperation. What's your price? You asked, your voice steady despite the tremor in your hands, a testament to your hardening resolve. The stranger gave a grim smile, devoid of humor. Justice. And the head of every Hydra operative involved in Cerberus. Starting with your friend. You nodded, a single, decisive movement. Then we have a deal. Your window of opportunity was closing, replaced by the imminent arrival of official response teams, a problem you couldn't afford. You pulled the data stick from the tablet, tucking it securely away in a hidden pocket. The Cerberus protocol is moving a shipment tonight. That's what the commotion at the gate was about. A diversion. The stranger nodded, already moving with an unnerving fluidity. They'll be using the old Sonora Pass. Less oversight, more remote. How do you know? You pressed, still wary, your instincts screaming caution. Before I decided to go freelance. The implications hung heavy, another layer of deception, another reason for caution. He had been part asterisk of Hydra, or at least working for them, intimately familiar with their operations. But time was a luxury you didn't have. The strobing blues and reds of responding vehicles painted the horizon, a relentless tide drawing closer. Then we move, you said. Your reluctant alliance had the dust of the border patrol station in the desert still clung to your clothes, a fine grit that grated on your teeth, even as the landscape blurred beyond the sedan's windows. Lena, the strategist you'd reluctantly joined forces with, drove with an unsettling calm, her profile sharp against the inky canvas of the desert night. The silence between you was a dense, living thing, punctuated only by the low hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of static from a handheld radio she kept close. Your gaze was fixed on the receding lights of the station, a beacon of chaos you'd left behind, a necessary distraction. Lena had engineered it with surgical precision, a symphony of misplaced files and phantom alarms, all to buy you precious minutes. They won't be looking for us this far out. She murmured, her voice a low current, not yet. You shifted, the ache in your shoulder a dull throb. What did you get from the confusion? Your voice was rough.
unaccustomed to speech after so long. She offered a quick, almost imperceptible nod. A discarded comm unit. Old model, but the last outgoing burst was recent. Encrypted, but not brilliantly. A single coordinate string, timestamped for an hour ago. And a partial audio file. She reached for a tablet mounted on the dash, its screen glowing faintly. Too short for voice ID, but there's a distinct metallic clang. Repetitive. Like a press. A cold tendril of dread snaked through you. A press. Industrial. Your mind, rusty but still sharp, began to turn gears. A pinpoint flickered north, deep within a forgotten sector of the city's outskirts, a district choked with skeletal warehouses and crumbling factories. An old textile mill. Shut down for years. Perfect for a short-term holding. Too perfect, you countered, your suspicion a bitter taste. They know we're coming, or that we're close. This feels convenient. She met your gaze in the rearview mirror, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Perhaps. But it's the only lead we have. And the clang. It matches a known pattern from their past operations. A specific type of hydraulic press used for packaging. If Clara is there, it's a temporary staging point. The image of Clara, your daughter, alone and terrified in some desolate shell of a building, spurred you forward. Logic warred with a primal need to act. Then we move. Fast. The drive was a blur of highway lights and the encroaching concrete jungle. The desert gave way to the sprawling, indifferent city. The air grew heavy with the scent of exhaust and damp earth. You navigated through a labyrinth of cracked asphalt and looming, windowless structures, each one a monument to forgotten industry. The textile mill rose before you, a hulking silhouette against the pre-dawn sky, its broken windows like vacant eyes. Lena cut the engine a block away, plunging you into a profound quiet, broken only by the distant wail of a siren, quickly fading. The air was frigid, carrying the metallic tang of rust and decay. You moved like ghosts through the overgrown weeds, your steps muffled by the loose gravel. She swept it across the building's facade. No heat signatures. Not on this side. You circled the perimeter, your eyes scanning for any sign, any disturbance in the grime and dust. A faint, almost imperceptible scuff mark on a rusty loading dock door caught your attention. Then, a thin thread, barely visible, snagged on a loose nail. It was a fragment of the same unique fabric Clara had been wearing when you last saw her. He was here. Here, you breathed, pointing to the thread. Lena knelt, examining it, her expression grim. The loading dock door creaked open with a groan that echoed through the vast, empty space beyond. The beam of your tactical flashlight cut through the black, revealing towering machinery draped in cobwebs, skeletal looms standing sentinel. Dust motes danced in the light, thick as snow. Then you heard it, the repetitive, rhythmic clang that Lena had described. It was faint, distant, but undeniable. You followed the sound, deeper into the cavernous factory. The clang grew louder, leading you to a far corner, partially obscured by stacks of rotting fabric bales. You pushed them aside, your heart hammering against your ribs. There, bathed in the sickly glow of a single, bare bulb, was a massive hydraulic press. And beneath it, not Clara, but a crude mannequin, dressed in clothes identical to your daughter's, slowly being crushed. Each clang was the press descending, flattening the effigy. On a workbench nearby, a small, voice-activated recorder lay open. You picked it up, your fingers trembling. Lena was already scanning the room, her thermal imager sweeping the corners. No one. Just the macabre display. You pressed play. We knew you'd come, so predictable. Always chasing ghosts. She's not here. Not anymore. But you're getting warmer.
Consider this a friendly reminder of what's at stake.
The voice clicked off. The rhythmic clang of the press continued, an unbearable mockery.
No heat signatures, Dean, Lena said, his voice tight with suppressed fury.
They're long gone. This was a diversion.
This wasn't just a trap, it was a deliberate, calculated taunt.
They hadn't just anticipated your arrival, they had engineered it, manipulating your desperate hope.
The discarded comm unit, the specific coordinates, the partial audio, all carefully placed breadcrumbs.
They wanted you to find this.
The fabric, Lena observed, picking up a piece from the mannequin.
It's not just similar. It's identical.
They must have had access to her things.
Or
they have her clothes. A fresh wave of sickening realization washed over you.
The syndicate wasn't just holding Clara, they were playing with you, unraveling your sanity thread by agonizing thread.
They were buying time, drawing you into a deeper, more intricate web. This wasn't just a setback, it was a psychological blow, designed to break your resolve. They're sending a message, you rasped, clenching your jaw, the metallic taste of adrenaline sharp on your tongue.
They want me to know they're always one step ahead. But they miscalculated.
Your gaze hardened, fixing on the crushed mannequin, then sweeping across the empty, mocking space.
They just told me they're afraid. Afraid of what I can do. And now I know they're watching my every move. This changes everything.
The urgency, sharp and unforgiving, clawed at your throat. And time, you realized, was a rapidly dwindling commodity. The sun, a molten coin, slipped beneath the serrated horizon, bleeding bruised purples and oranges across the vast, indifferent canvas of the desert sky. Dust, fine as powdered bone, coated the cracked windshield of your borrowed vehicle, each grain a testament to the miles you'd devoured since the last sickening realization. They weren't just holding Clara, they were dissecting you, flaying your resolve with surgical precision.
But the unraveling had stopped.
A cold, hard knot had formed in your gut, tighter than any fear.
This wasn't a game to be played, it was a war to be finished.
You cut the engine, the sudden silence of the desert pressing in, broken only by the rasp of your own breathing. Its windows, shattered eyesores, reflected the last vestiges of twilight, hinting at forgotten vigils and abandoned duties. The air, thick with the scent of dry earth and distant creosote, offered no comfort. You stepped out, the gravel crunching under your boots like broken glass. This place wasn't just abandoned, it felt haunted.
The main door hung ajar, a gaping maw.
Inside, the air was stagnant, heavy with the smell of decay and forgotten paper.
Desks lay overturned, their surfaces scoured by time and scavengers.
Files, scattered like fallen leaves, carpeted the floor, their contents bleached and illegible. This wasn't a place for a simple search, it was a maze designed to test your ghost of a memory. You found the old records room, its door ripped from its hinges. A single metal filing cabinet, miraculously upright, stood against a far wall, its drawers rusted shut. This was it. This was the target. You remembered the anomaly from your old case, the missing logs, the erased digital footprints from this specific station years ago. The details were hazy, blurred by the forced retirement, the public shame, the relentless self-recrimination. But the core memory, the nagging inconsistency, had never truly faded. With a grunt, you forced the top drawer. The metal shrieked in protest, echoing through the empty station. Inside, amidst a jumble of outdated forms and cracked binders, lay a single, unmarked manila folder. Its edges were crisp, unblemished by the desert's assault. Too clean. Too untouched. Your fingers, steady despite the tremor in your gut, opened the folder. Inside, not reports, but photographs.
Not official documents, but personal effects.
A faded snapshot of a woman, her smile brittle, holding a child. Another, a family portrait, the faces blurred by time, but one face, a young man, stood out. His eyes, even in the grainy image, held a familiar intensity. Then, a handwritten letter, its ink a spiderweb of faded script. It wasn't addressed to anyone specific, but it spoke of betrayal, of a life stolen, of a promise broken by the very system meant to protect. It spoke of a family destroyed, not by criminals, but by the careless, crushing weight of an investigation.
Your investigation.
The pieces, shards of a broken mirror, began to align with sickening precision. The name, scribbled in the margin of the letter, a name you had dismissed as a low-level operative in your old case, a fringe player caught in the dragnet.
But the letter didn't describe a pawn, it described a victim. It wasn't a collective. It was one man. The young man from the photograph. The operative you'd barely remembered. He had risen, patiently, meticulously, from the ashes of his ruined life, fueled by a singular, all-consuming vengeance. Your career, your family, your reputation, all systematically dismantled, just as his had been, and now, Clara. A mirror image of the child in the photograph, the child he had lost, indirectly, because of your pursuit of justice. The motive wasn't revenge for a syndicate boss you'd put away, it was revenge for a life you'd shattered. It was a personal vendetta, honed to a razor's edge over years of simmering resentment. Your breath hitched. This wasn't just about saving Clara anymore, it was about atoning for a sin you hadn't even known you'd committed. Hydra's true face was not a monster, but a ghost from your own operational history, a man you had overlooked, whose suffering you had inadvertently caused. And now, he was making you pay the ultimate price, exacting a justice that mirrored your own deepest wounds. The stakes had just soared, beyond anything you had ever imagined. Dust, fine as powdered bone, coated the cracked windshield of your borrowed vehicle, each grain a testament to the miles you'd devoured since the last flicker of civilization. It loomed, a concrete carcass against the dying light, its watchtower a broken finger pointing at the heavens. No lights glowed, no hum of generators disturbed the vast silence, only the whisper of the wind through shattered windows. You killed the engine, the sudden quiet of physical weight. The air, thin and sharp, carried the scent of dry earth and old metal. Your hand, calloused and trembling slightly, reached for the pistol on the passenger seat, its cold weight a familiar anchor. This was it. You stepped out, boots crunching on loose gravel, each sound amplified in the stillness. The station's main building, a low-slung structure, seemed to breathe menace. A single, weak beam of light, like a dying star, pulsed from an upper window. Thorn. He was here. You moved with the stealth of a desert predator, a ghost in your own story, circling the perimeter. Inside, the air grew heavy with the scent of dust, stale coffee, and something metallic, the tang of fear, perhaps. Your eyes, accustomed to the gloom, traced the outlines of overturned desks, shattered computer monitors, the scattered detritus of a place abandoned in haste. Footfalls echoed from above. The upper floor was a warren of small offices, their doors mostly open. The light pulsed from the last room at the end of the corridor. As you approached, a voice, smooth as polished stone, drifted out. He'll come, Clara. He always does. It's his curse, his fatal flaw. Thorn. He held a small, silver-plated revolver, twirling it with an almost artistic grace. Dean, Thorn purred, his smile a predator's baring of teeth. Right on time. I knew you couldn't resist. The hero always has to make an entrance, doesn't he? You stepped fully into the room, pistol raised, barrel steady. Let her go, Thorn. Oh, it always was. But you wouldn't play fair, would you? You dismantled my empire, Dean. You tore down everything I built, brick by agonizing brick. The serpent's coil, that's what they called us. A network. A family. And you, the righteous detective, saw only criminals. He gestured with the revolver towards Clara. She's merely the final piece. The leverage I needed to lure you into facing the consequences of your self-righteous crusade. The serpent's coil, you repeated, the name rattling forgotten cages in your mind. The syndicate from your last case. The one that evaporated, leaving you with nothing but accusations and a badge stripped away. You were the head? The unseen hand. The architect. You thought you broke the back of the operation, but you merely scattered the pieces. I watched you fall, Dean. Watched your career crumble, your family splinter. It was poetic, in a way, but not enough. Not nearly enough for the millions you cost me, for the lives you ruined. He slid off the desk, moving with a fluid grace that belied the casual tone. I needed to rebuild. And to do that, I needed to send a message. A very public, very painful message to anyone who dared cross the serpent again. And who better to deliver it through than the man who thought he killed the beast? He walked towards Clara, the revolver's cold metal brushing her cheek. Her eyes squeezed shut, a single tear tracing a path through the dust on her face. Don't touch her, you growled, your voice a low rumble. Or what, Dean? Thorn challenged, turning to face you, the revolver now aimed directly at Clara's temple. You shoot me and risk her? You think I haven't accounted for every variable? This station is rigged. One wrong move, one desperate act, and this entire place collapses into the sand. You save her, or you save yourself. You can't do both. He was telling the truth. You saw the crude wiring snaking along the walls, connecting to what looked like repurposed explosives. A trap. A final, desperate act from a cornered animal. What do you want? You asked, your voice strained, the pistol unwavering. I want you to admit it, Thorne said, his eyes gleaming with a twisted triumph. Admit that you were wrong. That the world isn't black and white, Dean. That sometimes, the serpent is simply trying to survive in a desert of its own making. Admit that your justice broke more than it fixed. Clara let out a muffled sob, her eyes pleading with you. The weight of Thorne's words, the truth of your own past failures, pressed down. You lowered your pistol an inch, your gaze flicking to Clara, then back to Thorne. You're right, you said, the words tasting like ash. I was wrong. I broke more than I fixed. Thorne's cruel smile faltered, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He hadn't expected you to concede. This was not the Dean he remembered. This was a man stripped bare, ready to sacrifice everything. Such a simple admission, he mused, yet so hard for you. And now, the true test. He raised the revolver, not at Clara, but at a small, red detonator box on the desk beside him. The choice, Dean. Your daughter, or your life. The detonator, or the bullet. He slowly began to press his thumb down on the detonator. You saw it then, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in his hand, a slight shift in his weight. He wasn't entirely steady. He was enjoying this, but there was also a desperate edge to his control. He was human. Your eyes scanned the room, the explosives, the distance to Clara. There was no clean shot, no perfect solution. But there was always a chance. Always a gamble. And you were a gambler, Dean, when the stakes were high enough. You're not going to blow us up, Thorne, you stated, your voice calm, resolute. Because you want me to watch him die. And then you want to kill me yourself. That's your twisted justice. The detonator is just a distraction. His eyes narrowed, your words cutting through his carefully constructed theatrics. For a split second, the facade cracked. That was all you needed.
Clara screamed, a raw, piercing sound.
Thorn swore, disoriented. You heard the clatter of the revolver hitting the floor, then a frantic scramble. He wasn't as composed as he pretended.
You moved, a phantom in the black, your senses heightened, the layout of the small room burned into your memory.
You heard Thorn crashing into something, a muffled curse.
Clara, drop, you yelled, hoping she understood. You lunged, a desperate, blind tackle, connecting with Thorn.
The impact sent both of you sprawling.
The air exploded with grunts and heavy breathing. You felt for his arm, twisting, searching for a weapon, for any leverage. He was strong, fueled by years of resentment, but you were fueled by something far more potent, a father's desperate love. His fist connected with your jaw, sending stars across your vision, but you held on, locking your arm around his neck, pulling him into a chokehold. He thrashed, kicking, clawing, but you squeezed, drawing on every last
ounce of your strength.
The fight was brutal, silent save for the sounds of struggle.
Then, a sharp crack. A gasp from Thorn. His body went limp beneath you.
You released him, rolling away, gasping for breath, your muscles screaming in protest. You fumbled for the lantern, your hands shaking, finally finding the switch. Light flooded the room, harsh and unforgiving. Thorn lay still, his neck twisted at an unnatural angle, his eyes wide and vacant. The silver-plated revolver lay a few feet away, glinting innocently. You scrambled to Clara, tearing the cloth from her mouth, untying the ropes.
The cost, though. The lasting consequences.
The serpent was dead, but its venom had seeped deep into your skin, into your soul.